I'm John Rodgers from Cuyahoga Falls, and we're going to take a little trip up to Hudson Bay to the little town called Churchill. Churchill is interesting because you cannot drive to Churchill. You have to fly in. I suppose you could do it on dog sled in midwinter, but it's got rivers and so forth. But that's where we're heading this time, and we're going to be under that flag, the Maple Leaf Forever, the Canadian flag. Now, Winnipeg is down in here, and we're going to fly up to this little town here and then over to Churchill. This is Hudson Bay, and we're going up to see if we can find some polar bears. We will find some, but it is too early. It's in October, early October, and it should be in late October. And of course, this is the United States down in here. But in order to get to Churchill, there were 4 flights. We flew from Cleveland to Toronto, Toronto to Winnipeg, Winnipeg to a little town, can't even remember the name of it, right up in either here or here, and then over to Churchill, and back the same way. And several of these flights were prop and turboprop. But here is the countryside as we are approaching Winnipeg. And this is all in the Canadian province of Manitoba. And then here is a view of the city of Winnipeg as we're approaching. Winnipeg is the capital of Manitoba. And going on the rest of the way then, it looks sort of like this. And yes, that's a turboprop. And if you can read that, I don't think you can. It's a Rolls-Royce engine anyhow. So you're in pretty good hands as you fly over to Churchill. But when you look down and see this and no roads and streams and everything else, even four-wheel drive vehicle does not do you any good as you're making your way over to Churchill. As you land in Churchill, this is their airport. And this airport has no security. When you get your plane on the way out of here, you don't go through any security. You just get on the plane, your bag is put on the plane, and you take off. Then a bus picked us up, and he was our driver for the whole time we were there. A real nice guy, has a restaurant, and we used his restaurant also. And these are polar bear traps. If polar bears get too obnoxious, they will try and trap them, and then they will hold them in that Quonset hut that is behind these traps until they get several, and then they will haul them out and release them somewhere. They do not kill polar bears. They really look after their polar bears. They want them. And here's the view from right by those traps off in the distance, and this is the little town of Churchill right over here. That large building is a huge grain elevator, and that's where most of the money in Churchill comes from, because this is a great grain shipping port. During good weather, out through Hudson Bay and over to the Atlantic that way. And you're looking out now on Hudson Bay. And this is that person's restaurant, little home and all. And this is a construction they use quite a bit up in Churchill. Now, here's one of the main streets, and that's the grain elevator down there. Now, when you're walking around Churchill, especially during the bear season, they tell you, do not walk into shadows, do not walk behind things, and if you see a polar bear, you go to the nearest house, rap on the door. If nobody comes fairly quick, you open the door and go in. You don't stay out with the polar bear. And here's the grain elevator. So you see the long railroad cars, the grain cars coming in, and they will be coming from Saskatchewan, part of Manitoba, and even from over in Alberta, and they will bring them in here, and then the grain will go out by ship. So it's a very, very flat little town, and it's right on the edge of Hudson Bay. And this is one of the places where you can get pretty good food here, because during this time of year that we're here, it is tourist time, and they want to get a bit of money out of the tourists if they can. They even have a statue of a bear. And the old Royal Canadian Mounted Police. I found this in a little restaurant, this old poster, and got quite a kick out of it. And the Eskimo Museum in Churchill is outstanding. It might be a little town, but this is a little museum, but it is a real good one. It's got some pretty neat stuff in it. These are all things that have been done by Eskimos and the Inuits and so forth have brought those in here. And then you will see these. Not necessarily the big one at the top, but that polar bear alert sign at the bottom you'll see over and over again. Stop, don't walk in this area. And little church there that we, because we were walking with the right person, we got to go in the little church. During the winter time, they will be going around in these this rig and snowmobiles. During the summertime, they like these all-terrain vehicles, and they use those quite a bit. Now we're going down over to Cape Mary, and this is where the Churchill River comes in. And the Churchill River is bringing fresh water into Hudson Bay, and this is the area that freezes first, and that's why the bears are so interested in it. They come up here so they can get out on the ice very quickly and start catching seals. Now right there at Cape Mary is, this is the marker, or this is where the first fort was, and you can see across the river there is the Prince of Wales Fort. You can see a little part of it to the left, but I wanted to show the waves hitting in there, and as the Churchill River comes in. And that's a Prince of Wales fort. Now we did not cross the river to see it, because we were heading back for the other way. And then the wildlife that we saw was really neat. This is a little Arctic hare, These are big bunny rabbits. They really are a sight to see. Just pure white. He just sat there and let me. Now this is with a telephoto lens, but he just sat there and let me take his picture. One of the biggest bunnies you will see around. Now our driver has taken us out, and we have left the bus, and we walked up to a high spot where you can see Hudson Bay and see some of the vegetation on the edge, and the battering that these poor trees get from the wind as the winter progresses, and they become just about a three-sided tree. And then this is all tundra now. Very little vegetation, a lot of rocky outcroppings and the like. These trees have really taken a beating. And then the colors are very outstanding too, on the foliage and on any bloom that they might have had, but the bloom was all gone by the time we got there. And this is lichens. This is a beautiful orange lichen that's gradually breaking down the rock. Little ponds and all, then you can imagine how fast those freeze as the winter progresses. Just that little plant When it gets maybe 6 or 8 feet high, it will probably already be 100 years old because there's not too much growth that can go on here. We got a kick out of the bus driver telling us about this plane. He said the pilot knew they were in trouble. It wasn't a thing he could do about it, but he just brought this plane down. It was crashing. He just brought it down so gently that nobody was hurt. They just walked away from it. But in all the rock and everything, there was no way that they were going to be able to salvage it. So it's still sitting there in the rock. This is what they call a forest. This is a boreal forest is how I pronounce it. And inside of it, in little places in it, see these trees are 150 years old, and they're not all that big. But we started seeing a few of these little guys. These are ptarmigans. And a ptarmigan, you spell his name, it starts with a P, but it's not pronounced. P-T-A-R-M-I-G-A-N, ptarmigans. And you're going to see some more when we get out on the tundra looking for the bears. But here are a few in this boreal forest. They're just sort of strutting around. It's like a small chicken, and they don't fly too much. And here's one of the houses that the people who used to, the ancient people who used to live in here. This is a recreation, obviously, and it's not in very good shape, but this is how they used to live. And you imagine what it drops down to here on Hudson Bay, and you wonder how they could have stayed around for centuries. Again, some of the vivid colors. Now we're making our way over to where we're going to get on the tundra buggy. This is not a real terrific picture, but it is of a station that is of importance. You've heard of the Northern Lights or the Aurora Borealis, and this is a station that is studying that to keep seeing what on earth it's all about and how it operates and how the sun affects it and so forth. And that's the reason for the picture. But what we're really out this far for is to get on one of these tundra buggies. Now you see over on the right of this, there's somebody standing there. The top edge of the bus there is 9 feet off of the ground. 9 feet is the reach of an adult polar bear. And so even if you're that high up, you don't want to be standing on the edge with a polar bear very close to you. And here is one of the roads that we're going to go over in the tundra buggy. Great road. And this is out all through tundra. We are actually going in that vehicle across this water. We're going to go up there, and then we got to cross that one before we get very far. This is really not too deep, but they can maneuver. And we're going to break out of the little pond right at that point. But rough, it is really rough. And you are not allowed, except in very unusual circumstances, you're not allowed out of the tundra buggy until you get back. Those are the first tracks that we saw of polar bear. Some birds on the edge of the pond there. And there's one polar bear out in here. We did, as I mentioned, we did not see much in the way of polar bears, but you'll love the close-ups that I got of the one male. Now, I took some pictures, and I also blew some of them up so that you can see them a little better. The colors change a little bit, but not too bad. And you can see on his shoulder here and down his leg, that is more the color. The polar bears are not pure white generally. And then he's moving. And when he's moving, you're so far away that appears to be slightly out of focus, and he probably is. Some cones, I like to photograph cones. And then he lay down in another place. You almost look like you could go out and pet him, huh? Now these swans, these are probably tundra swans. I'm throwing in a lot of the different wildlife that you see. I don't know what that little bird on the rock is there. If anybody knows, I'd like to know. But a lot of rock, a lot of water, and everything else out here. And then here's an Arctic fox right here. And here is another one taken at a different place, right here. I'll show you another picture of an Arctic fox later on, but here's some more of those little ptarmigans. Got real close to these, and they were grouped together, so I like to take them that way rather than just a single one. And here they are right on the edge of another pond. Now, as the winter approaches, they will be pure white, and they will have lost all of the mottling. Here is a beautiful Arctic fox, and you can just see how silky his fur coat is. It really is quite nice. And these are probably snow geese from about there over. All this stuff in the foreground, this is all rock. As a matter of fact, there's probably some rock right in here, but these are snow geese. One more Arctic fox. You can tell I like the fox. And some more polar bear tracks. Now you can go out here and you can stay in what they call this tundra buggy village. You can stay there for a week, and they bring out food, and it's got a semblance of restroom and so forth out there. But you're not allowed to go down on the ground because the bears might be around. Now, we went to one place quite a distance off, and they could see for quite a ways, and so they put down the stairs and let us go and walk around a little bit because there weren't any bears. And here's what the tracks look like, and this is why it can go through those really bad, they call them roads, and they can cross the ponds. The size of the tire and the track that it makes. And here's right on the edge of Hudson Bay. Hudson Bay is right off in the distance there. And if you want, you can get a helicopter tour. They're fairly expensive, but you can get a helicopter tour, and they keep tabs on where you are so they can bring you right back to your tundra buggy while you're still out on the tundra. That is Hudson Bay. You can now see it in the background. And here is our male polar bear. Now this polar bear is about 800 to 900 pounds, they say, and he goes down to that in the summer because polar bears do not hibernate. He lives south of Churchill here. There is a national park, a Canadian national park there, to protect these bears. And they do not eat for the most part in the summertime. Oh, I suppose if they got something easily they would. But most of their food is seal blubber. And when they go out on the ice, when the ice finally forms and they can get out and start catching seals, the people up there told us that you would be absolutely amazed how fast this bear would go from that size to 1,400 pounds. It would be very, very quick. Now we are fairly close to this bear. So you're going to see a lot of shots of him because we got so close that I'll even have one where I can show you his teeth. See, you just reach out and you pat him, you know, scratch him behind the ears there. Just a magnificent creature, it really is. He found this old antler. It looked like an antler of a caribou or something. I don't know if somebody threw it to him or he found it or what, but that's what he's been chewing on a little bit. And I'm not sure, but I think that's his tooth right there. He looks like he's going to sleep here. No, he's standing up again. These are all more or less in the order in which I took them. And then he decided to walk away from us and lay down, and it was the strangest way of laying down I've ever seen on an animal. This is the way he lays down. He lays down all his rear part first, and then he lays down his forward part. Now he's down, and he can take a little nap if those tourists will stop watching him. But what a magnificent creature. And as we see the sun setting across Hudson Bay, we bid farewell to our polar bears.